Hi folks, John Cordisco back again. Another game from round one of the Isle of Man International Chess Tournament 2016 edition. Great tournament, great location, one of the most beautiful places in the world, the Isle of Man. I'll tell you the truth, honestly, between the scenery there, the greenness, and the coolness and temperature, the low temperature, it's perfect for me. If I ever had any money, I'd love to live there. It looks like an awesome, awesome place. Anyway, let's get to it. It's going to be between White, my buddy, Carl Nakamura from the United States. By the way, 3 of the top 10 players in the world are in this open tournament. You usually don't see these guys in open tournaments. Mosazian's playing, Leonov, Alexei Shirov. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. If those of you who want to see the commentary, go to livestream.com. Also, chess.com is showing the live commentary. If you can't see it live, they have an archive to watch the videos, the whole 3-4 hours of it. Pretty awesome stuff. It's pretty entertaining. A lot of female players too, which is a nice change. As White, like I said, my buddy from the U.S., Carl Nakamura, and is black. See if I can butcher this name. Katevin Grant Arakhamia-Rd.1. I'm sure I butchered that pretty good, so I won't be trying that again. So let's get to it. It's going to be, believe it or not, a Queen's Gambit decline. I see D4. Now, the ratings difference is about 500 points, actually more. This is what you'll see sometimes in these opens, a lopsided, but it makes them some very, very entertaining games. I think a lot more entertaining than the big World Elite tournaments. They might not be as good quality, but they're a lot more entertaining. E6. Knight F3, we'll just go through the opening here. Pretty much standard stuff. Pawn takes, pawn takes. Knight. Bishop E7. E3. C6. Bishop D3. Seems pretty tame for a Carl, but no, he's fine. H6. Bishop comes back. Castle. Queen C2. That's pretty strong. Force Baron down there. Rook E8. Now, I think there's several moves here. Castle's A3, Rook C1. Carl decides to move the bishop back to G3. And I've been trying to go through this game, and I really don't know why. Maybe he's trying to keep the queen off of C7. I really don't know. Knight F8. Interesting move there. The computer liked knight to H5 to chase the bishop, and that's probably what I would have done. The bishop would have went to E5. Then after knight takes, bishop checks. It's a little different scenario, but knight to F8. Now there's an old saying by Bent Larsen, the old Danish grandmaster back in the Fischer days. He put a knight on F8, you cannot mate. So we'll see how this works out. Castles for Akaro, knight to H5, hitting the bishop. Bishop comes up. Now the bishop hits the knight. The knight comes back to D2. Of course, he doesn't want to give it up and screw up his pawn structure there in front of his king, so he moves the knight. Black hits the bishop. Bishop comes back to G3. Knight takes. H-pawn takes. Now, granted, we're on move 16, and just because there's a huge rating difference doesn't mean you're going to blow them out in the opening. It's basically an even game. Bishop to D6, then Carl goes knight F3. Now he decides to put the knight back. Now, if bishop takes, it's not so bad if g-pawn takes. The pawns aren't so butchered. They're still in good shape in front of White's king. G5, the kid's going for it. And why shouldn't he? When is he ever going to get a chance to play a Carl Nakamura again, frankly? He might as well just go for it. Knight H2, hitting the bishop. Bishop goes back to H5. These are the kind of positions I get a little lost in. I'm not really sure on what to do. Bishop F5 looks very tempting. Rook F to E1. Carl decides to go Rook A to E1. It's like he has all the intentions of the world of eventually pawn and then pawn here. It looks like that's a Carl's plan. Queen to C7, stopping the movement of the F pawn. Bishop F5, really good spot for that bishop. Rook to E7, looks like he's going to double up. And E4 by Carl, open things up. Rook A to E8. Knight to G4 for Carl. King G7. Now knight to E3. Pretty interesting. It's starting to get complicated, I think. And so, black decides just as good as king the heck out of dodge. Carl takes. And this is where I think, as you can see, there's a lot of stuff coming here. You've got G4, maybe even F4 down the road. Knight goes to E4. There's a lot of stuff coming on black. But here's where he miscues. He miscalculates. Plays bishop takes. Pawn takes. Rook takes. Rook takes. Rook takes. Queen F2. And I think black's just doomed at this point. Rook E8. Bishop comes back. A lot of stuff hanging. He's got to guard the pawn on F6. Knight comes up. Hit that pawn again. And this is where the kid, I think, miscues. Probably should have went knight to D7. Or maybe even F5. Maybe even knight to H7. Something. But he decides to go bishop there. And now knight takes. Tough break there. Tough break. Rook A to D8. Basically only move. Bishop takes. Queen takes. Queen up. Pawn takes. Queen E7. It's just horrendous. Rook to C8. Queen takes, threatening the rook again. Decides to Queen to C2. Because there are the rook. I'm trying to desperately get some counterplay. It's just not there. Queen to F7. Queen comes back. Carl takes the other pawn. It's like a windmill almost. Rook to C6. And knight to H5. And that's where the kid resigned. As you can see, queen takes. Rook mates. It's just horrendous. It's just going to be doomed for black. So the kid throws in the towel. Interesting game by Carl. It's interesting how the cream comes to the top, and not because of Carl's my buddy, and I really like him a lot. You'll see a lot of these lower rated players. Now this was a 400 odd rating point difference. They're fairly decent in the opening. When they get towards the middle, late middle game is where they seem to fall apart because they're just outplayed. These high class players, but open tournaments are awesome to watch. The games are exciting. The quality isn't as good maybe as some of the elite tournaments, the round robins, but I think they're a lot more fun. So anyway, folks, there's a game from round one of the Isle of Man International Chess Tournament 2016. I hope you enjoyed it. Look for other games coming. And as I always say, if you think chess is just a game, you're not playing it right. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.